and that is where some people are at. People have gone into crazy amounts of debt. People are, remortgaging houses, struggling to pay rent. And that's because their resource has been crushed, is the reality. Sure. The only silver lining is that we are really close now to that end, or certainly from what I see. We've already, even from my point of view, we're starting to make some hires now. And that's a really positive sign. It's nowhere near at the speed that we want. But people are starting to get placed. LinkedIn, every day now, more and more people are joining new studios, which is great to see. It's not at the pace we need.
I mean, first of all, welcome on the show. It's been, it's been great. It's been wanting to have you on for some time, so
it's good happy to be here, man.
Finally have you on.
Yeah, let's have our catch-ups on a podcast instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I know a lot of people are like wanting answers and are anxious and worried as well. So I think it'll be great to get an idea from you of where things are and where things are going. So, but I think before that, it'd be great to just go back a bit and just try to understand a bit more about what really happened on the writer's strike, like what happened and what caused it.
I mean, good question. There was lots of things flying around, on the grapevine. I think the reality is that the key thing I believe from an actor's point of view was the royalties and things like that. Wanting to be better paid for repeat shows. I think from a writer's point of view, wanting a bigger piece of the pie, which I can understand, but on the flip side, how many writers kind of put their money where their mouth is and say don't pay me for this. I want just a straight percentage of the project. Who knows? Look, I'm not in Hollywood, so maybe that does happen, but maybe because of the strikes, it doesn't, or not to the extent it maybe should. Obviously, protection against AI as well, and all that kind of jazz. I don't think we're at the point yet where AI is going to, write blockbuster scripts without needing proofreading. Maybe it will one day. You never know.
For sure. Yeah.
Which is another interesting topic. Other interesting topic. Yeah. But I think they're probably the key things for actors, actresses. It's the royalty side of things, which I think was the main bugbear. Crowd work as well, extras, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then for the writers, I think overall wanting a bigger piece of the pie and protection against sort of AI and stuff like that is my understanding. I think they probably knew that this was going to happen, weeks, months before it actually did. So, maybe the studios managed to get a bit more prepared than us people in VFX,
Yeah, sure, yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, it was unexpected. Like no one saw it coming, really. It's been a nightmare.
Well, that was said. It kind of, as we were saying, on previous conversations, I think with the strikes from a VFX point of view, you either were just coming to the end of a project, so you've been feeling the pinch since May, or you were in a real fortunate position to have a project kind of just land before the strikes kicked in, and that's kept people busy until the back end of 2023. Which is great for those individuals, because it's hopefully giving them a bit more time to sort of process what was happening whilst trying to create a plan to get through the rest of the siege. But yeah, some people have been in this siege now since May. So yeah, pretty brutal.
Yeah. I mean, like I was saying, I think all we needed was just an understanding of, because no one knew what was going on. No one knew that there'll be this length of a gap for things to pick up, and it was just everyone was just trying to get onto the next job or trying to find the next position, and everyone else was doing it, and there was nothing else going on, and then there was people artists undercutting, and it's just a nightmare.
Everyone doing anything they can to try and get through, you know. And look, there's no right or wrong, and also I think the world didn't realize the impact on the strikes, you know. The big guys get all the airtime and whatnot, but you know, stunt teams, lighting, setting up rigs, you know, makeup, art direction, everything you can think of to do with a film, you know, everybody else has lost. It's a lose-lose for everybody else, you know. You know, when you look at the margins that have been agreed, etc., I don't know how long it's going to take before it's actually a win-win for the strikes to have happened anyway. But of course, you know, that's their thought process, I guess.
Yeah. Where do you think, where are we at currently then in the industry? So,
well, we can do the gentle approach or the you know, the full force. This is how it is approach. What do you fancy, man?
Yeah. Let's do the full force. It'd be good to have the realistic. Just get a full picture of where things are really.
I think the reality is, in, you know, speaking from a personal point of view as well, you know, MOTUS hasn't been thriving through this, that's for sure. You know,
for sure.
And the reality is it's the hardest, it's the worst time right now because we're so close. And that the problem is everyone's been kind of sat on the sidelines for so long using those reserves. That, you know, you've got people in Vancouver talking about food banks for VFX artists. I mean, you know, that's just devastating to be reading, you know. And that is where some people are at. You know, people have gone into crazy amounts of debt. People are, you know, remortgaging houses, struggling to pay rent, and that's because their resource has been crushed. Is the reality. Sure. The only silver lining is that we are really close now to that end, or certainly from what I see, we've already, you know, even from my point of view, we're starting to make some hires now, and that's a really positive sign. It's nowhere near at the speed that we want, but people are starting to you know, get placed. LinkedIn, every day now, more and more people are, you know, joining new studios, which is great to see. It's not at the pace we need. The positive is when this does come back, you know, you're not going to have studios looking for one or two profiles. They're going to have to scale pretty big, you know.
Sure.
So the reality is there's no reason why, the way I see it, you know, by September, October, the roles have reversed again, and studios are now, you know, VFX houses are struggling to find crew because everyone's been taken again.
Sure.
And I think that process is going to start in May, June. I was hoping it was going to start in March, April. Sorry. But things just haven't moved as quick as everyone was hoping. Why that is, I'm not sure.
What do you think? Where's the blockage? Like what needs to happen for the work to come out? Or where does it need to come from?
I think you look at people's schedules last year, and you know, everyone was gearing up for projects to be starting between September and November, which means that everyone would have been groovy and fine at this point. But obviously, because of the strikes, you think the strikes, what did that last for those guys? What, from May the 2nd until November? I can't remember the date, but it was in November.
Yeah.
So, you've got to think that everything got put on the back burner by all that time. So those projects realistically that should have been starting on those dates aren't going to be starting until June now, realistically.
Yeah, sure.
And in between that, that's realistically as good as it's going to get, because unless someone was going to just come to the table and write a script and produce, direct and shoot it within a couple of months, there's actually not really much work to be going after. Unfortunately, a few facilities have gone under, so people have picked up work from them. You're seeing VFX long form facilities trying to creep into commercial. Everyone's kind of scrambling for any bit of work.
Yeah.
But the reality is the work just isn't there because because of all those delays, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, yeah. What are you getting, or what are artists telling you? Like, what have you been hearing from artists? Because there's a lot of despair.
It's a really interesting time in that sense, because it's people are asking me about remote work and relocation and things like that, which we kind of went through a phase and a period where remote work was the driving force. COVID proved that worked. But on the flip side, people are now thinking, if I relocate to a studio wherever they're based, and have a hybrid model instead of the fully remote, am I going to get a better chance of getting a job? I would look from a long-term selfish point of view, that I would rather people do that and hold the line on their rates, instead of being like, I'd rather be one of the first to be hired remotely, but I'm going to drop my rate to do so.
Sure.
People are dropping their rates and saying, look, I'll happily look at a decrease, and it's coming from a point of struggle, which isn't nice to see, and it's what I would rather happen is people hold the line, because I think that this is where it's going to come to fruition, in the sense of all the talks that have happened through these strikes, and I'm going to be asking for this, going to be asking for that. There's also people that will not be. So it'll be interesting to see if there's going to be a united front on rates with VFX artists, and are they going to undercut because they just are desperate for work, which is, again, who am I to say, that everyone's got different situations and families and bills to pay.
For sure.
On the flip side, if people can hold out, I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where there's a monopoly of being able to charge whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if people can hold the line on their rates, and be paid what they were being paid before these strikes, hopefully getting paid a bit more, then that's going to take a little bit of holding out. Because once the initial set of crew has been hired, that scramble is going to happen again. So it's not going to be a case of we need people at a lower salary. People will accept that this is their rate. look, this was my rate before COVID. I'm gonna hold out, and this is what I'm gonna do. Or look, I'll relocate and do a hybrid position, and keep my rate. I think that's a good bargaining tool. But the hybrid role is always an interesting one. Hybrid's cool if you live in a city that's popping full of VFX. London is it's an easy city to be an artist and say I'm happy to do remote work if you live there. I mean hybrid work, sorry, because you've got an abundance of stuff. A facility in Germany or a facility in Atlanta or Stockholm that's offering hybrid work for that work-life balance. It doesn't have the same appeal because the reality is you're going to have to relocate to have that. But looping back round, people seem to be quite open to that. Not everyone, but people do, which is cool. Hybrid work, remote work is amazing. But before COVID, people would have moved mountains to relocate for a project. Which reminiscing was a really nice thing. Like I said, remote work is amazing. But people would move mountains because it was their passion and they wanted to work on all of these shows. So who knows where we'll get to with that? But yeah, people are talking about relocating again, which is a very interesting point.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I've tried to hold my rate steady. There's been times where I've been approached for my availability and I've tried to hold my rate, but I've lost work to other artists that I know myself personally know that have gone in and been given that position based on the fact that they've gone in on a lower rate, which has been happening quite a lot. Before the new year, so it was cutthroat. It was quite desperate times. But
it really is, and it's interesting, because it's all. There needs to be a way to work out rates for the industry instead of and also people understanding that facilities have different budgets and it's not.
Sure.
And I personally don't think that a small facility should be able to pay or has the budget to pay the same as one of the big guns. And the reality is the work might be slightly different. And understanding that as an industry, it's just I don't know many other industries that are that have got a standard blanket approach. You look at tech. Someone that works at Google is going to get paid a hell of a lot more than someone that works at a startup. Sure. They might be doing the same job, and might even have the same years of experience. But the reality is that startup doesn't have the capital that Google does, and it's the same in visual effects. What there does need to be, I think, is a facility doesn't have to necessarily disclose to the world what they can pay, but I think what would be cool is, if a senior walks through the door and says I want to be paid, what's the brackets? The studio says these are the brackets, and there needs to be justification for that. So I guess a really simple way of looking at this is, let's have a senior junior, a senior mid, and a senior senior. So if you've got 3 rates within a senior bracket, well, look, we think this individual can answer all of our problems, so we're going to put them on the senior senior. Look, you've got most of the tools in your locker, but we're kind of missing this little bit, so we're going to put you on the senior mid. And once you've accomplished that, let's discuss and get you on the senior senior. And again, someone who's maybe coming through on it's their first sort of senior position, on that junior rate, and you can have that across juniors and mids too. And just be, I think, quite open about that when you're crewing up, and then it's up to the artist to decide whether they want to take that, and then that way, you don't have seniors that have got, sometimes £100, euro, dollar differences. That senior's being paid that, and that senior's being paid that, because that's what causes friction. And some studios there'll be budget left over, and then it's like, okay, we're desperate, we need someone, so let's try and get someone. So you can understand it from their point of view, in the sense of these guys are service providers too, right? They're trying to get their job done. But on the flip side, I actually don't think, on the whole, I think if you did a poll and was like, you've got someone at a medium size facility and someone at a big size facility, and there was a difference in rate, I think there'd be a lot more understanding. But if you've got two people at the mid-size facility on massively different rates because of circumstance, that's naturally going to, I think, upset people a little bit more. So yeah, the holding the rates and trying to stick to that is important. I think if we can get VFX houses to maybe approach it with that point of view, then at that point, as an individual artist, whether you agree or disagree with the rates that they have because of their circumstances, that's irrelevant. At least you can see that anybody in that facility, because people talk about rates, right? Studios don't want you to talk about it, but you do. Okay, so the reality is if you're working at the same facility and your contract says senior, and my contract says senior, then we should be able to go 3, 2, 1. What's your rate? And we both say the same number. If I'm a senior mid and you're a senior, and we go 3, 2, 1, I should understand that I'm going to be on a little bit lower than you, and know that there's justification for that, and I've got to work on something to get that next jump. I don't know. Sure, it's just
makes sense.
A thought process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. How sustainable do you think it is with outsourcing of work from the West into cheaper houses, or like outside of the West, I guess, considering what's happened currently.
Well, look, it all comes down to that I don't want to, I think race to the bottom is the wrong word, is the wrong phrase, but the reality is it comes down to those different budgets again. And you'll have the top 4 facilities passing work on to very reputable small to medium facilities, so that you can actually look at this and go, there's people passing work from the West to the West, that happens all the time. I think that when you're outsourcing work, it depends on the type of project, I guess. You have a lot of people that have maybe set up a facility, and they're like a 3-4 person band, and they've gone somewhere where the tax is really low, and they're saying, come and use us. I get approached about that all the time. It's not really, I get hired to find individuals, not outsourcing work. I think if that's what you want to do, go for it. But I think that those kind of operations only really thrive off reputation. You need to, if that facility that you've built a relationship with, you need to be going to them directly, because if they trust you and your work, they'll outsource to you. But for me to send somebody as an outsourcing company to a facility that they've never never spoken to before, the trust just isn't there. You know, you can obviously there's different VFX houses worldwide, and you know, I think that again the problem is if you don't outsource that kind of work, then there's people that are out of money that rely on that.
Sure.
Their cost goes up. I think that, look, if you don't do it, somebody else will, and that's probably where people are. I probably don't think it goes any deeper than that, realistically. Right. You know, if we don't do it, they will, which means that their bid can be X amount less than our bid, which makes us less competitive. But then you put that back onto the VFX studio. I mean, not the VFX studio, the studios. You know, your Netflixes, etc. You know, you can go back and say, yeah, our bid is higher, but we're supporting, but that's because we're supporting junior New Yorkers or junior Londoners or something like that.
Sure.
Is that something that, you know, these big studios care about? You'd have to ask them. But I think that, you know, again, that'd also be pretty cool. But you know, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that aren't in the Western world, can't just get a visa to jump around, you know. So they rely on that remote work, that outsourcing to you know, feed their families and survive, you know. Like, I think that's one of the beautiful things about visual effects. It's global. Every country, whether it's you know, country specific, independent, low budget stuff, or global Marvel, everybody uses VFX, and there's VFX artists and production crew worldwide that, you know, are trying to make a living. You know, quite long-winded, but, you know, do you look at, is it undercutting if the margin of profit is the same? I guess. So what I mean by that is, let's say someone's outsourcing and somebody isn't, you know, is the outsourcing keeping it at the same the same profit margin for that individual? So is the person that the money's going to, even though it looks cheaper on paper, it's because their cost of living is totally different. Sure. You know, their rent is different, their food, their groceries, schools, etc. If that's actually in line, you know, then it is outsourcing an issue. I don't know. I think for you as an artist, I mean, how do you feel about
that? Well, I wasn't less. I mean, it depends. It depends, right? So it depends on the situation. How do I put it? It becomes. I mean, I guess it only becomes an issue when artists can't find work, and
for sure.
And then we see that it's. I mean, obviously, it's been outsourced, and obviously for, I don't know, we as artists, we're thinking, oh, maybe because it's cheaper for them to send it out, and whereas, I mean, obviously everyone has, like you said, everyone has their bills to pay, so it just depends on the situation. Usually it's not an issue until
it's really interesting because as you kind of explore it and have these conversations, we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, you know, over this period. It does become an individual thought process, in the sense of, you know, I remember speaking to someone. They were based in the United States. I won't say where, but it wasn't New York or LA.
Yeah.
And they were asking me, you know, what they should kind of what they should put themselves forward for as a rate for New York work.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, are you going to be totally remote? Are you going to do some hybrid? You know, if you're doing hybrid, do you charge a New York rate for the days you're in New York? Do you then charge a rate that's more suited to your cost of living when you're back home? You know, like there's no right or wrong. Let's talk about this. And their kind of response was, you know, like, it's not my fault that the New Yorker lives in New York, which is a completely valid point, you know?
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, my response to that was, you know, well, what happens when, you know, someone in a state in the US with even lower tax than where you are comes in and says, you know, it's not my problem that you live there, you know?
Right. Yeah, sure.
And it's that thought process that that I think as a collective, as an industry, we need to resolve, because yes, remote work is amazing. What I do think is it's created an individual thought process to the rates, you know, because like, again, I don't agree or disagree with any of the points. Everyone's got valid points, right? But you know, you go on that thought process, and you know, in the next 10 years, nobody's going to live in any of these VFX hubs, and everybody's going to be working in a 0% tax area, and you'll have had to have you would have had to have relocated at this point just to get work, because no one's going to pay you when they can pay people them rates. So it's not actually just, you know, Western world companies outsourcing work to other parts of the world. It's also individuals that are, you know, relocating to be cheaper too, you know.
Sure.
And then on the flip side, you have people that will go to a really cheap destination and then want to charge their full rate. You know, which again, I don't disagree with. If you can get it, you do it, and live a life, you know. But on the flip side, that might not always happen too. So the rate thing, and outsourcing work and stuff, there's nothing will get fixed until there's an understanding globally of putting some standard things in place, you know. And you can then look back at the rates and say that senior, junior, senior, mid, you know. Then at that point, wherever you live, those are the rates. These are the rates we can afford. You know, that's what works to our margin. If you live in our city, then amazing. If you don't, amazing. You're still going to both get paid the same. But the funny thing is, you know, you're still going to upset people. You know.
Yes, always.
And that's the really interesting thing about the rates and the outsourcing of work.
Sure.
You know.
Interesting. Regarding topic of AI, I'm not sure what you've been hearing, but should artists be worried about the increase in advancement of AI and automation? Should our VFX artists, or should we be worried?
Look, not right now. I don't think that, I don't, you know, again, look, I'm not in Silicon Valley. I'm not embedded with all these tech people and stuff. But I don't think right now. I would love it to essentially be a tool. Look, it's coming regardless. You know, is my thought process, and that's not just in visual effects. I just think in general, you know, AI is coming. Hopefully, it's a tool that can aid people. You know, I remember when Instagram first came out, and and people thought it was just going to wipe out photography and photographers.
Oh, yeah, sure,
you know?
Yeah, Flickr.
And if anything, it actually has hopefully helped. You know, the fairy tale ending would be that's what happens with AI. You know, I think again, you know, you can look at it and go, it's coming regardless. So anybody that doesn't embrace it might struggle more than the people that are embracing it potentially.
Yeah.
You know, you've already seen facilities are starting to look around and have probably put a bit of R&D into an R&D budget and into looking into these AI possibilities. So it's coming. What could it remove? I'm not sure. But yeah, anyone that can sort of embrace it, and people will disagree with that, and I'm not here to argue on that sense, but I just feel like it, you know, being realistic about the situation, whether it comes next year or in the next 10 years, it's gonna come. So how do we embrace it and utilize it before people get to the point where it's like, well, look, this isn't being this is happening. People aren't, you know, welcoming it. So then that's actually when people start to look at solutions to remove the human. Is my brain thought process. If people are actually willing to look at it, and I mean, how can that aid you as a match mover? I don't have a clue. But if you can get to that point, you know, then we might find this a smooth transition. If every match mover or every artist in the world was like, no, not using AI, I'm pretty damn sure that people would push on to work out a way to just use it without everyone. So it is my thought process. So if people can get on board with it, then I think that's going to benefit. I don't think that's going to happen for a long time, though. You know, there's too many intricate pieces to the puzzle, right? You know, facilities are so focused on actually just getting work and completing it. You know, you don't have time to just pump into you know, making this a thing. Even the bigger facilities, you know, I'm sure they'll be given an R&D budget by the directors, and it might last 6 months. You ain't gonna, you know, crack the code in 6 months is the reality. Sure, so unless these people are willing to invest, you know, to be honest, hundreds of millions into cracking it in VFX, then I don't see it being an immediate concern. But that doesn't mean that someone will.
For sure. How do you think graduates should be positioning themselves coming out of university, or choosing a degree that will benefit them in the long run?
What, so a degree in visual effects or just in general?
Coming into industry, I guess.
I think you know, this might be controversial, and I might have a few universities coming after me. But when I look at the courses that, let's look at the UK. When I look at the courses that are happening in the UK versus, you know, let's look at art VFX in France. You know, you know, they'll be up for a Bez Award tonight. They'll you know, they will win an award this evening when I'm there. You know, like they are that good, and you know, you walk out of that school, and the reality is you're in the best possible position to land a job, because you're massively punching above your weight at that point. So, you know, I don't think there's necessarily Look, if you're an individual and like I said, in the UK, and you're going to university and studying VFX, you can go in there and push and do the best you possibly can do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the course is what actually lets a lot of UK juniors down,
Right.
because they're coming out of university and asking for a X rate, versus someone that's come from, like I said, that school in France on the same rate.
Yeah,
it's no fault of their own. So I would, again, don't know how you do this, but I'd actually love the UK to look at that, and how do we better our courses? How do we get people from the industry, coming in? Like I said, the guys at Art, they're working on actual shows,
right.
Like that is what's happening, How do we get people in the UK universities working on actual real life features, episodic commercials? What can we do to make that happen? Because I think that is the biggest thing that's going to really help a grad. You can do the old school stuff. I'm a big fan of knocking on doors. Just literally just going to Soho with your with your CV and your reel, and just knock on some doors. The worst thing that's going to happen is we're not looking to hire right now. But I'd like to think that moment sticks in that company's head. I used to be a chef in a past life, and that's how I got my first job. I just knocked on doors, and was like, "Can I speak to the head chef, please?" And I actually got sent away and told to come back the week after, and I did, and then got the job. Look, that's just a real small, silly example. But yeah, what can you do that's not about the university courses? Breakdown is everything. Exactly. On that reel, what were you specifically responsible for? Keeping it short and precise. Just having the best possible work that you've done on there. It doesn't need to be 3 minutes long of the stuff that you did in year one through to final. Personally, even to senior profiles, I say that minute and a half of just awesome work, or the best you can possibly put forward. Having your best project as soon as that Vimeo link is opened. Again, say that to not just grads, but to anyone. You want to be packing a punch from the beginning. You think about how many show reels we as MOTUS look at, or when people are hiring directly look at. That initial 10 seconds is I think really important to keep people focused. I think look, positioning yourself in terms of your rate, or willing to go in as a runner for a period of time. That's something that doesn't happen so much anymore. But it's an interesting thing. You're never going to remove people. If people are willing, they'll make it happen. Whether that's speaking with a recruitment agency, whether that's connecting with as many soups as you possibly can on LinkedIn, and producers, and wanting to and badgering them and constantly, messaging, showing that persistence that I want this, going and knocking on doors, being willing to relocate, I think as a grad, as a junior, I don't think you're ever going to be able to replace the learning that you're going to do inside a facility. If you're a strong mid, or if you're a senior, you've been around a bit. Remote work is fine. It works. I think as a fresh junior, being in the same room as that soup and not having to email to set up a Zoom to then talk about feedback, and just being able to discuss it there and then, for everybody in the room that's a junior as well to hear that, and hopefully that soup is delivering that feedback in a positive way. Then everybody's learning from it. If you're just having a one-to-one feedback session, then other juniors aren't hearing this conversation. So relocation, pretty cool. You don't need to do it forever. It's just a suggestion, not a must, but a suggestion.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we've been through the hardest parts of the strikes and the redundancies and artists being off work. So we're now looking up to hopefully things getting better. What needs to be done for this to not happen again, at least in the short term?
I really hope people can't afford for this to happen in the short term.
Right.
If this happens again for the same duration of time, we're all finished. Right, yeah. There's no other scenario.
For sure.
So I would like to think that short term this isn't going to happen again. I think the learning curve that I've taken from this is, because you can look at it and go, the writer's strike happened, it's not my fault. It is technically not, MOTUS's fault that it's struggled through this, because it was something that was out of our hands. On the flip side, what I've now really taken on board and has sank in, just prepare for the unthinkable,
Sure, yeah.
The absolute unthinkable. Because if you do that, then hopefully you'll see through it. Because I don't think this will be the last time. How many times has this happened now? This is the third time it's maybe happened. I think someone will watch this podcast and corrects me, but did it happen in the 60s or the 70s as well? Only for a brief amount of time, but then obviously 2007, 2008 it happened. And obviously it's happening now. The world is sort of bouncing in and out of recession regardless. So if you just remove VFX from the equation right now, we're constantly bobbing up and down within the recession. So if there's a huge crash that happens in a couple of years, again, it's having that thought process. Something could happen. I'm not saying sort of keep all of your money together and don't spend anything and enjoy life. Absolutely not. But yeah, it certainly taught me to prepare for the unimaginable, because I thought that we were on for an amazing year.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, wow, things are looking pretty good this year. And it just took a nosedive for everybody. Whether you're a big facility, you're a small facility, you're an individual, you're a recruitment person, everyone's taken a hit. And I think it's really honourable, admirable that people have put on a really brave face, I think, You know, you ask people how they're doing, and they're okay. But I think the reality is there's a lot of people that are really struggling now. So I think you know, constantly talking as well is an important thing. You know, not to overthink things too much. Easier said than done when you've got struggles.
For sure.
But just realize that you're not alone, and you know, you can have a talk to somebody else in the industry, and they're having the same problems. But yeah, no, I think it's pretty cool that as a whole, everyone's stuck at it. People have changed profession. I'm hoping that they come back and they've just done what they had to do. But yeah, I'm really hoping that in a year's time we won't need to worry about anything else. And if you are worried that that's going to happen, then just, you know, do what you can to adapt, rainy day funds and all that kind of jazz. I mean, anything that can help remove unnecessary stress.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Tell us a bit about MOTUS, like the background and how it started and how people can reach you.
Yeah, I mean, look, MOTUS has been going for just over 4 years now. And you know, we kind of do what we say on the tin, in the sense of, you know, we want to connect artists and facilities together. You know, we work with vendors across the globe, which is awesome. We've worked with artists across the globe. We place across all disciplines within visual effects. You know, that's our focus. Will always be sort of visual effects. You know, everything that we can take care of within VFX, we absolutely will. You know, and people have their preferences on how they utilize us. You know, we either do one or two hires because people are a little bit sketchy of you know, how this thing works. Then you've got people that use us for mass crewing because it does work, you know. And that's I think that's something that's certainly helped us grow our brand and push forward, because we're totally at peace with the process. You know, people have proven that this works on a larger scale. So if you don't want to look into that, absolutely cool. But if you do, it's been proven to work, which is amazing.
I mean, I'm a beneficiary of it as you've helped me, like recently or previously, find work. So yeah, it's been great.
You know, that's it. Look, our never-ending goal is to have every single person in visual effects know who we are, and hopefully trust that we're, you know, being genuine and ethical about our process and placing people. You know, I mean, God, look, I'd wanted to work with you for a long time. You know, all those messages to you over the years, like, hey, Kofi, what's happening, man? When are you becoming available?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, really glad that we got to work on a few projects, and hopefully there's going to be more to come.
For sure.
And so, yeah, you know, MOTUS, we're gonna keep pushing, keep growing. We've got some different thought processes about how we want to approach things this year. You know, which is another reason why I'm over in LA right now. And yeah, you know, we're gonna try and push on like everybody else. And if you ever want to reach out, you know, feel free to do so, people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and if there's any questions that we fail to cover, you're always welcome to leave a comment on the podcast. And I mean, even Kurt is reachable and very active on LinkedIn. Your updates on LinkedIn during the peak, well, I'd say peak, hopefully the peak of it. Of the strikes, where were really helpful. Like a lot of people latched onto it because we just wanted an update, just wanted to know what was going on, and your breakdowns of where the industry was really like beneficial and very helpful. So
I'm really glad.
Great.
I'm really glad that helped. And to be honest, I don't think I was necessarily saying anything that people maybe didn't know, but I think there's been a lot of conversations that have been happening, face to face, and without everybody kind of seeing it on a larger scale.
Sure, yeah.
So I thought it was important to
for sure,
keep people in the loop on what I know anyway. And the way I think I see things going, because I think the reality is MOTUS wheels don't turn without artists and facilities. So
sure.
it's just as important to me to keep myself in the loop and as many people as possible in the loop as I can, because we need you guys. so
yeah, for sure. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time and for shedding light on where we're at and where we're going, I guess. If I can.
No, my pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Really glad we got to do it, and hopefully people that watch it find it interesting, beneficial, and
for sure.
Maybe we're doing another podcast in a year's time, or 6 months time, and it's going to be a totally different outlook and different talking topics, with everybody happy and in work.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.